Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. So our text is from Lamentations. And Lamentations is a short 5-chapter book written by Jeremiah. He wrote his 50-some chapter book as a prophecy, and then he wrote Lamentations. It is good that one should hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord. Jeremiah had a rough life. He might have hoped for lots of things, and most of them didn't happen on this earth. He was the prophet at the nadir of ancient Judaism, when they were turning away time and time again from the Lord and worshiping idols. And he not only went after them, but also all the nations round about, and told about how Jehovah was going to bring various sadnesses upon them. And they didn't like him. He was beaten, he was punched, he was put in prison several times. Then the remnant wanted to go down into Egypt and leave the Holy Land. And he said, don't go down into Egypt. If you go to Egypt, the sword you're fleeing will certainly follow you, and there you shall die. And they didn't listen to him. They went to Egypt, and they took him with them. And when the promises that he had said came to pass, they killed him. And yet, you hear these beautiful passages that were read in the second lesson about hope from Jeremiah, who was undergoing all these things. And the same thing is true of us. There are times when it's hard to be affirmative. Things seem to be bad, and they will probably get worse. There doesn't seem to be any hope. Sometimes life is hard. Someone we love dies or becomes terribly ill. A person is a victim of cutbacks in a factory and loses his job after 25 years. He's at an age when finding a job is going to be not easy. His and his wife's children are in college. A couple may seem to be having irreconcilable differences. Their marriage is in trouble, and it will affect them, their children, and both families. Sometimes life is hard, but the Lord created every one of us to have a positive experience. In his second coming, he has said that all people born are predestined for heaven. He intends each and every one person born to have a happy life forever, and he wants us to be happy here and now as well. That is what we should hope for. It's the ultimate gift of the Lord. That doesn't mean that we should brush aside all grief. As the Jewish writer of old said, there is a time to weep. There is a time to mourn. Sometimes grief overwhelms us for a while, and we can't pretend it isn't there. It's just that grief is not our permanent lot, however it might feel that way. The Lord is working to make hope dawn again, because happiness is our destiny. This talk is about hope and its place in helping us towards that happy, affirmative view of life which we need. We need it to get through the hard times. We also need it to inspire us in the good times with joy, with an excitement about our future. You see, hope is a feeling in the present, but of course it is looking to something in the future. Our text speaks of the hard times. Jeremiah had been in such misery, called at an early age. He did his work, and again he was rejected and punished and eventually killed. Courageous. He undoubtedly was. Speaking out against evil, even rejecting certain freedom and safety for himself to say his duty to his God. In the book of Lamentations, he does bewail his situation, saying at one time that the Lord has abandoned him. Surely he has turned his hand against me. Even when I cry and shout, he shuts out my prayer. And I said, my strength and my hope have perished from the Lord. Then the Lord stirs him to remember the good times, and hope returns, as does the memory of the Lord's mercy. Through the Lord's mercy, we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. He counsels patience, hoping for the future. It is good that one should both hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord. So we too are going to be under stress many times. It's going to seem that the Lord is not helping us at times. We may feel quite desolate. We may feel left to ourselves, and life stretches before us an endless, barren wilderness with no real prospect of happiness. It doesn't matter that such feelings are unrealistic. We experience them. And the New Church teachings say that we can be reduced to despair sometimes in our lives. Despair. We have no hope. It seems to us that the Lord isn't doing what is right for us. He doesn't seem to have mercy on us, and we feel that we have no chance on being happy. Now here is the punchline. At such times, angels and good spirits are with us, and they inspire hope. This is true for all people, regardless of their faith. Perhaps the most comforting passage in this speaks of the opposite, affirmative and negative thinking. The hells tempt us to think negatively, assuming the Lord isn't helping us and that things are hopeless in many ways. And if we give in to such thoughts, they turn to despair. If a person fights on, however, he is, quote, indeed in doubtfulness, but still he allows himself to be raised up by hope and remains steadfast in what is affirmative. He receives from the angels the strength of mind to believe that these troubles will be over and that life is meant to be happy. Well, that's comforting to know that. But what can we do? How can we cooperate during the hard times of our lives to overcome depression and despair? The answer lies in what the writings say, what the New Church teachings say about hope. Hope, they say, is a quality of the understanding. Now that seems strange, doesn't it? Because hope's a feeling, isn't it? Well, yes, but it is something that we can think of. When we feel hope, we can think of something that's going to happen in the future. We're able to focus our minds on what is good in the future, and especially of the good things that the Lord plans for us in the future. We must cultivate hope. When we're in depression, we tend to sink into inactivity. We tend to think that what we feel is what we feel, and we can't change it. But we can change it. We can change it by what we choose to think about and hope for. When people are depressed and unhappy, they think about the circumstances that are making them unhappy. Then the hells associate with those things. When you're unhappy, the hells associate with it, and they have a field day. They inspire mercy and hopelessness. Quote, "And I said, my strength and my hope have perished from the Lord," said Jeremiah. We have the power to change our mental environment, even when something bad is happening. In the heat of despair, we find that almost impossible, and that's understandable. But as time passes, we have the ability to ask ourselves, to use our understanding what the Lord has in store for us and for those we love. That conscious effort is a beautiful cooperation with the angels, because they inspire hope. Cultivate hope. We do this through thinking about the goodness of the Lord, about his presence, about his mercy, and his power to change us and to change things. This can help in any crisis. These are the thoughts that help us through the night of temptations. Certainly, we still have to fight on, and hope slowly begins to dawn. As Jeremiah said, through the Lord's mercy, we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. In the middle of all that he was going through, that's what he said. For every false idea that the evil spirits inject, the angels counter with hope. For every sadness that the evil spirits love to see us experience, the angels try to change it into hope. Now that is the reality of life. It's not a dream. It's happening every moment. If the angels didn't, then our sense of weakness will overwhelm us. In our despair, we'll probably turn to something evil, thinking that any pleasure, even an evil pleasure, is preferable to the helplessness that we feel. Think how many people have done desperate things, left family or loved ones, trying to get away from sadness, and it only brought deeper misery. The writings teach us that hope comes when we see something in the future. The hope's in the present, but we see something in the future that's going to happen. That's the kind of future thinking that is good. This applies to our happy times as well as to the sad ones. Have you noticed that almost every important event in life came only after a period of waiting? A young man meets the girl of his dreams. She doesn't seem to care for him. He's courting her, and it's not working. What is his most powerful feeling in that period of waiting? It is hope. Then they become betrothed. They have a different kind of hope. It's called anticipation or confidence. They know that they'll be married one day, but it hasn't happened yet. What do? They use their understandings to think about the delight of that day when it comes. They talk about it between themselves. They think about it every day of their lives. And it seems at times that it's so hard to wait. But what are they doing with every moment of longing? They are affirming that this is vitally important to their happiness. With every longing, they are choosing this marriage as the key to their joys in the future. You see, hope and anticipation, which is a kind of hope, are ways of becoming steeped in the good things that the Lord is offering us and pursuing them before they are realized. The writings say that if we knew for sure that happiness would be ours, we would stop thinking about it and maybe not even value us. They add that that reason delights in thinking about happiness to come in the future. It is a most wonderful feeling. We need it. Then the couple gets married, and they're going to have a baby. Not right away. They have to hope and wait for 9 months. They want so much to enjoy this baby. Those 9 months heightens the joy when it comes. Hope is specially to be cultivated when we make a new resolution to obey the Lord and to overcome our evils. It's the most positive things that we can do in our whole life. And after we take that step, no matter what earthly losses we suffer, and there may be many, our everlasting happiness is in the Lord's hands. The Lord inspires us with great hope at such times, and we should nurture it. We can think of all the blessings which the Lord promises in His Word and assure ourselves that if only we will continue in this path we've chosen, they will certainly in time be ours. These thoughts fill us with hope and give us strength for when the hard times come. So the story of Simeon at the time of the Lord's birth is a lovely story of hope. He knew, maybe the only person who knew, that he would not die until he saw the baby Lord. How often did he wake up every single morning saying to himself, is this the day that I will see the baby Lord? His thought of this one event was with him every day, and he was longing for it to come. And when it came, His happiness was greater because he waited for it. Now he said, I can die in peace. I've seen the Lord's salvation. The story of Simeon says something else about hope. People might talk about the death of hope. Oh, my hope's died, and that's a negative thought. But in one sense, every hope dies. Simeon's death, a happy death, represents this fact. When we long for something and hope for it, and it happens, then we stop hoping for it, for we experience it. Hope is replaced by the joy of the event. But the spirit of hope will never die. We always have new things to hope for. The angels wake up every morning and look forward to doing their work better than they did the day before, for better communication with the Lord and those they love. We can too, and we can nurture our hopes. The big thing is that the Lord and his angels inspire these hopes and fill them with delight. What then can we learn from the special teachings in the new revelation about hope? First, we can take comfort from the thought that in the truly sad and hard moments of our lives, the Lord and his angels are striving to quicken us with this feeling. It is good that one should hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord, even in the tough times. Second, we can have an active role in cultivating hope in our mind. We are not victims of the despair that afflicts us at times, however despairing it is. We can counter it by reminding ourselves, forcefully reminding ourselves of the joys he has in store, not only for us, but for others who are suffering, of the specific happiness that we and they can look forward to if we can trust in him, and of the solace we can bring to others. And thirdly, we can feel, like we can feed our resolve to follow the Lord with positive thoughts. For ourselves, we have full assurance of happiness, because the only thing that could bring permanent unhappiness is not to follow the Lord. We can face any tragedy. We may be bowed by it. We may be very unhappy for a second by it, but it cannot be broken. And in our happy times, let us use the mental powers to imagine, to picture the joys that we hope for. Let us hope for heaven and picture ourselves in heaven, walking its paths, enjoying eternal friendships, free from evil. Picture yourself with the person you'll live with forever, leaving the world of spirits and walking towards your eternal destination. Let us hope for love here on earth. Picture it to ourselves so that from this vision we may go forth and make it happen. Let us hope for specific ways to bring solace to others who are struggling and to help them find hope and feel that the sun is shining again. And let us enjoy the period of waiting that comes to all of us, using that time to build up such a strong hope for future usefulness and happiness that when the time comes, we can pursue it. with all our hearts. Amen. And now, excuse me.